So, my story of how I got into this, man, I was actually deep into dog training before I became a cop. I was a civilian dog trainer prior to, and dogs drew me into police work. And I'll touch on that story soon. But you're going way back when, like how this started for me was at a very young age. And I'm not trying to sound like a victim or anything. I'm very grateful for the things I've experienced, but I was born into violence and dysfunction and the substance abuse. Like, it goes back in utero, man.
What state was your family from, or like where were you born?
I was born in New York. I spent very little time there. Maybe when I was 2 years old, we moved to Connecticut. So, my old man was a violent drunk, man. My violent indoctrination to this world, he punted my mom down a flight of stairs when she was pregnant with me, so shit started before I even hit the ground.
That's what happened to you. That's a lot.
But you know what? I'm very grateful for the things that I saw as a kid. It's pushed me in a direction that I never saw coming. And my old man most definitely prepared me for the dysfunction and violence that you see in the streets of South Florida. It's wild, man. Like, in times of stress or in violence, shootings, stabbings, dog bites, fights, the world would absolutely slow down for me at a pace that I could normalize it in my brain and function. Like, a lot of times people lose that dexterity or that tactile sensation, lose motor skills. For me, it got better. And I attribute that to some of the shit I saw as a kid. I've never touched a sip of booze in my life to this point, man. It ain't because I'm on a health kick. It's because I knew that was the devil's juice from a kid, man. So, what drew me into animals, and believe it or not, horses was my first love. I actually wanted to be a jockey, and then discovered food in the gym, and then those dreams were crushed. Like,
what age are we talking here? Like,
bro, young. So I calculate, my childhood memories, I assess to where we lived, because we moved quite a lot. I've moved so much as an adult. 0 to 2 was in Westchester, New York, and then from like 2 to about 9 was in Reading, Connecticut. So it was in that time frame where I really fell in love with animals. But the reason I fell in love with them is because humans were dangerous. Like, humans were untrustworthy, they were manipulative, but animals spoke my love language, man. I was just obsessed with horses, man. Obsessed with horses. And my parents actually would allow me to go ride at a certain stable. They'd give me lessons and stuff like that, man. So I was just hooked on it. And the behavior that we learn to, the behaviors that you manipulate with a horse through tactile communication is very applicable to dog training, especially using electronics, man. The tactile communication of the reins mean whoa, spurs mean go, pressure on your legs moving the horse side to side, the pressure and release of the reins to get the horse to move its head and turn, like, wild. And as we're going to talk about maybe some of the NAPO training I'm involved with, there's prerequisite reading, where there's a book or movie called Buck, where he's a horse trainer, Buck Brannaman, brilliant horse trainer, and we kind of have similar backgrounds. He grew up in some violence, and he watched his old man violently break horses, and he suffered it with his brother, and he's like, I have to find another way to communicate with those animals, and he did, and it's wild. So if you're into that kind of animal geek stuff, man, you want to learn a little bit about how to communicate. He does it on a much deeper level, man. So fast forward the tape, man, obsessed with horses as a young age, but also had another obsession of baseball. So I was geeked out about baseball. I actually played professionally once upon a time. I was drafted by the Atlanta Braves in 1993, which, like, a lifetime ago. That didn't last too long, man. It was an amazing experience. But, throughout the whole time I was in the minor league program, and I could never have a dog. Man. I was like, there was a missing link in my life where it was a cool experience, man. And then I played at Florida State University, got to play in the Minnesota Metrodome in college. Actually, in high school, I got to play in Yankee Stadium, the old Yankee Stadium, an all-star game, man. So I had really, really rich memories of playing baseball. And just an amazing, absolutely amazing experience for me. You know what? You can look back in your life and remember certain times that kind of drive you in a certain direction, and how you evolved and how you became where you are today, good or bad. Is I remember when I was about 13 years old, we had adopted a 100-pound black German Shepherd. He had been hit by a car. He had the use of his front leg, but it was a peg leg, right? So somebody had dumped him at a vet clinic. The vet had done the work for free and put him up for adoption. So we grabbed him, and he was just like on autopilot, bro. Just the coolest dog, bro. Big dog, man. So we used to sleep loose in the house, like no training. You just hang, wouldn't leave the yard. It was just like cool. And then one night, it was like 1 or 2 in the morning, he starts going ballistic. Like, he wants to go through the front door, right? So we all wake up, rush out there. We kind of peeked through the windows. We just said, man, maybe it's a raccoon or something out there. We hushed him up and went back to bed. So the next morning, we went outside and discovered that my old man had a boat and 2 of his outboard motors were stolen. So 2 things happened simultaneously for me, and I can remember like it was yesterday. Like the feeling of becoming a victim of a crime, like enraged me, bro. Like I just felt so angry. And what the equally or even more powerful in my brain was, I said, I'm never not gonna listen to a dog again. Like,
Trust your dog.
Trust the dog, 100%. Like they know things that we don't. And I'm gonna be getting goosebumps even thinking about them, you know? And it's that moment where 2 worlds collided for me. Like the desire to really understand dogs and their communication and their process of how they behave and what their needs are. And then that aspect of becoming a victim of a crime, where the 2 worlds merged for me later, becoming a police dog handler, where I get to handle both businesses, right?
You didn't know that at the time.
Didn't know it.
Yeah.
Didn't know it. And it came to fruition. I actually got a late start. I was 28 when I became a cop. So, you know, just kind of fast forward the tape a little bit. In Connecticut, I actually was, when I got released from the Atlanta Braves in about late 94, early 95, I went back to Connecticut, wasn't sure what I was going to do. I knew it was something with dogs.
How old are you about this time?
Shit, you're making me do math now, bro. I was probably 23, 24. I was 21 when I signed. Yeah, so I was probably 23 when I got booted. It sucked, bro. And actually, stationed in West Palm. The Braves used to be down in West Palm. My parents were about to get on a plane in LaGuardia to come see me at spring training. I said, get off that plane, man. I just got booted. I'm actually doing laps in South Florida, a little piece of shit Honda Civic, man. I'm like, bro, what do I do? So came up with a plan. Long story short, ended up back in Connecticut. I was working in construction during the day, going to school at night, trying to get my degree. The Braves had paid for some of my education, so I was trying to use up that. And this was before social media, bro. It was before anything. All we had back then was old Learberg tapes, man, if you remember those, bro.
Yeah.
That's all we had to go by. So there was none of this, man. There was none of this amazing opportunities we have with the internet now. But every deli that we go in for lunch, I'd see a business card. It was called Dogs Unlimited. And my name today plays homage of my business, Canine Services Unlimited, to my dear friend Chris Burns, who owned that business at the time. So I grabbed it. I don't know if I guess we had cell phones, or maybe I went to the address, knocked on his door.
Probably beeped him. You hit him up.
Maybe on a beeper, yeah. And
But you don't know this guy. You
don't know him for shit. I don't know him for shit. I just talked to him last night. He's one of my dearest relationships I hold so dear. This man, I just knocked on his door. He said, come on in. He opened up his mind, his business, his family, everything to me.
What possessed you to, like, what was the calling? You kept saying the card, and you knew it was dog related. You said, this is it for me? Like,
because I'd always had a passion to pursue something in dog training. Like, police dogs are in the back of my mind, but I'm actually a pit bull guy, bro. I love pit bulls, man. I actually go to the pound with another buddy of mine in Connecticut. We just go take out pits and mess with them, bro. Like, we were just obsessed. We didn't know what we were doing, why we were doing it, but we had this deep ignition to engage with dogs and understand them. So, man, it's like God's work, bro.